Are there constructive things that you can do to help restore a culture of life? Find out next on this edition of Life Matters. You may not be aware that our host, Brian Johnston, is an actor by avocation. He acts under an old family name, Keenan Johnston. Today, he explores some of the incredibly powerful implications of our media culture. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. He is an author and lecturer, a film producer, and commentator. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on life, on culture, and the very real battle of ideas that are swirling around you right now. You see, the right to life is an idea. It's an idea that was written down by our founders for a very important reason, because it's an essential. They said it's a self-evident truth, and it describes the proper relationship between the government and the human beings that it governs. That the government has a duty to protect the vulnerable innocent. That's why policemen have guns and badges. On Life Matters, we talk about the news of the day, and we're going to do that in just a little bit. But those of you who have been listening know that we're thematic. That means that we deal with very specific themes. So when you hear this program, it's sometime in the future on a podcast, and many of you are listening by podcast. We're broadcast throughout California. And if you want to get our program on a local station, just let us know. We'll try to help you do that. But the reason we also podcast it is so that you're equipped to understand the details of this battle. Our program today is going to focus on the right to life in the election season. And we've been doing that for a while because elections are important to understand. That's when societies really determine what their values are. That's when things that really are going to matter happen. And a lot of times people ignore that. And the stats regarding people of faith voting, it's been very appalling. We're hoping that in 2018, that people of faith will step up and realize they have a civic duty. So we're going to talk about that today, what it means to have a civic duty to make sure that the innocent are protected by the government, because that's what the right to life is all about. We're going to talk a little bit about religion, but you know what? Those of you who listen to this program, you and I know that the right to life is not about any particular religion. That's right. You may disagree with me, at least briefly, but think it through. Your faith can agree, just like stop signs. It's actually important for you to obey traffic laws, because if you don't obey that, then people could die in terrible auto accidents. And if you're a Christian of any kind, your faith confirms that. I really should obey the laws. But it doesn't make stopping at stop signs a religious issue. It's an issue of actual society and how it should function. And Christians should care about that. The fact that they care doesn't make it a religious issue. I'm going to read to you briefly, and then we're going to get into the politics of the day. I'm going to read to you an amazing quote from, of all places, the Catholic Catechism. And the Catholic Catechism is very clear that the right to life actually has nothing to do with religion. That's right. The Catholic Catechism points that out. This is what it says in the Catechism, section 2273. The inalienable right to life of every innocent human individual is a constitutive element of a civil society and its legislation. Now think about that. It's really what the founder said as well in 1776. I'll read it again. The inalienable right to life of every innocent human individual is a constitutive element of a civil society and its legislation. In other words, the reason we make laws is to protect those who are innocent and they can't protect themselves. The purpose of the law is to protect the innocent. And if we lose that, then our society has been corrupted. And that's happened throughout history, where society becomes selfish and ignores the innocent when they're being killed. And we don't want to let that happen. So we're going to talk about elections today. We're going to talk about movies. That's right. We talk about the culture that emanates from the idea of the right to life. I'm going to talk about two significant movies, an old one and a new one. We're going to talk about what you can do right now, both in California and in your own state. And again, we're speaking in 2018, but you can do this at any time. You can use these principles wherever you are. If you live in a free country, you need to understand these principles, because the principle I just read from the Catechism and what the founders of America said is that this is the job of every just government. This is why governments are instituted among men, said our founders, in order to establish this justice. So this is deeper than our personal predilection, and that's what's meant by a self-evident truth. This is beyond my personal feelings, my personal religion. So when we come back, we're going to dig into this. We're going to talk about a couple of films that you should be aware of that will help illumine you as we look at election season. It'll help inspire you, I hope, to make sure that your friends are registered to vote, to make sure that they understand what the right to life is. It's not just about cute babies. I think babies are cute. It's not just about getting diapers for those handfuls of kids that aren't killed. Well, that's a good thing to do. That's a work of corporal mercy to help those young women who decide not to kill their babies. It's a good thing to do, and that was done before Roe v. Wade. It's being done now during the era of Roe. And when Roe was overturned, we're still going to have to help young women in need and their children. That's an obligation. It's a moral obligation. But it does nothing to end the human Holocaust that's happening, the multiple millions of unique lives that have been lost. So how do we end that? We use civics. We use elections. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the movies that I hope will help you understand this. We're going to talk to a good friend, a producer, John Sullivan, who's produced an excellent movie. He's produced many films. This film, Gosnell, is a very revealing and important film that underscores this very principle, that the law needs to protect the innocent. And if the law doesn't do it, great evil will take place. So that's a great film. It's going to be released October 12th. We want to make sure you fill the theaters for that particular weekend so that Gosnell's message can go out to others. We'll be right back, right after this.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Life Film Fest is the creative outreach in Hollywood that's changing Hollywood and the culture. There's many films you've already seen that actually had their start at Life Fest in Hollywood, their premiere. But more than that, we work with people throughout the industry who want to creatively bring the message of life. Not just hit you over the head with it or preach to you about it, but creatively impact the culture so that the hearts and minds of our fellow citizens understand the depth and the breadth and the warp and the woof of what the right to life really is. Be part of Life Fest Film Festival and make a difference.
Every life does matter. Every life is significant. Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to lifefilmfest.com. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We've been talking about elections and election season. What that means is you have to prepare for Election Day. Election Day is merely the day that the votes are tallied. You know, if you don't understand this season, it's going to be an unhappy day. Think of Christmas. That's a season. If you wait till Christmas Day and realize, I didn't prepare. I didn't think about it. I should have bought a tree. We should have gotten gifts. Mom, weren't you going to prepare a meal? If there is no preparation as the season is approaching, and you just wait for Election Day to come down and you've just been watching, you'll be unhappy. I guarantee it. Just like you would at Christmas. But elections are a season where your obligation to understand things more deeply, that's an obligation you have, to gird up the loins of your mind, to think about these things more deeply, to consider these things. That's what election season is about. So we're going to talk right now, and I know I've mentioned to you before that I dabble in film. I have both written, I used to teach English, I am a scriptwriter, I've produced and directed, and some of you know that I act as an avocation. I believe film to be one of the most important art forms that we have yet developed. I personally see it as a form of visual literature. And so good films have a way of telling a story, and we can talk about that another time. But film is very, very important. Some of you know that Life Fest Film Festival in Hollywood. That's where I first met John Sullivan, whom you're going to meet in a little bit. But Life Fest is dedicated to films that underscore that theme, that classic theme of storytelling, of good stories. And that's this, that every human life, even the seemingly insignificant, is of tremendous worth and significance. And if you think about it, all the classic movies that you can think of and all the classic stories that you can think of underscore that message, the significance of a human individual that makes individual decisions that change the world in which they live. And they often seem like a nobody. And then they come out of nowhere and change everything. That's actually an ongoing theme in all of Frank Capra's films. The common man as an individual. And yet that common man makes a huge difference. You know some of those films. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a Wonderful Life. And this film I'm going to tell you about now is also a Jimmy Stewart film. I've mentioned it before. I saw it again recently. You can view it online. This film is called The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and everyone thinks it's a Western. But here's the thing. Westerns have a lot of conflict, and good storytelling does have conflict. But in Liberty Valance, there's a deeper theme. As I said, you must view film not just as an entertainment device, but it's telling a story and it has a theme that's underneath. And if you watch this film again about a shootout in a Western town, it's actually so much deeper. And you know what the theme is? That in society, you need the law, and the law must protect the innocent. Without that, you don't live in a just society. And quite literally, if you watch the film, and we're going to hear a clip from it now, literally the writer puts into the mouth of Jimmy Stewart the principles of the United States of America. It's hidden in the middle. The principles of understanding the value of our Constitution and protecting the innocent. And then most importantly, again, we're in election season, the film literally revolves around an election where people get to vote to determine if the laws will again protect those that cannot protect themselves. This is a deep, deep American theme. And of course, Capra and Jimmy Stewart, that particular film was a Ford film, but films are very important for storytelling. So we're going to hear from this right now. Listen in as you hear from Jimmy Stewart just in the middle of this movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
For those of you who have just started, I might explain to you that we've begun the school by studying about our country and how it's governed. Now, let's see. Well, Nora, would you tell the class what you learned about the United States?
The United States is a republic, and a republic is a state in which the people are the boss. That means us. And if the big shots in Washington don't do like we vote, we don't vote for them, by golly, no more. Anymore.
That's fine, Nora. That's just fine. Now, I wonder if anybody in class remembers what the basic law of the land is called. Now, you remember I told you that it had to be added to and changed from time to time by things called amendments. Now, does anybody remember? Julietta, your hand's always up. Here, let's... Pompey, you try this one.
It was written by Mr. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia.
It was written, Pompey.
Written by Mr. Thomas Jefferson. And he called it the Constitution.
Declaration of Independence.
It begun with the words, we hold these truths to be
self-evident. Let them alone, Charlie.
Self-evident that
all men are created equal. That's fine, Pompey.
I knew that, Mr. Rance, but I just plumb forgot it.
That's all right, Pompey. A lot of people forget that part of it. You did just fine, Pompey.
Thank you, Mr. Rance.
Now, this law of the land also states that the governing power rests with the electorate. The electorate. Now, that means you. That means the people. And you exercise this power through the vote.
Life Matters continues after this.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, and I was very excited when I heard about LifeFest Film Festival. LifeFest is the film festival dedicated to showcasing films that affirm the intrinsic worth of innocent human life and the profound significance of each life. One seemingly insignificant person can in fact change the whole world in which he or she lives. That one singular life ends up being of vital importance. I'm so glad to hear that you are cherishing that in this film festival and are committed to artfully and creatively protect the lives of those who can't possibly promote themselves.
Life Film Fest is dedicated to bring the message of life to Hollywood and to our culture. Go to lifefilmfest.com and get your tickets now. That's lifefilmfest.com.
Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to lifefilmfest.com. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. You had just before the break heard from Jimmy Stewart out of the film The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which actually was a film designed to teach Americans the value of voting and of standing on legal principles that protect the vulnerable innocent, a very important theme. And we're going to hear in just a minute now from John Sullivan, producer of the Gosnell film, which will be released nationwide October 12th. We want you to go to see this film. Bring your friends to see it. I've seen it. It is excellent production values. It's a murder mystery. Don't be afraid, oh no, they're going to show aborted babies, I can't handle it. No, I want you to view this for what it is. It's a crime mystery, and it underscores that the purpose of the law is to protect the most vulnerable innocent, and good law and good lawmen will do that. That's why the law exists, and it isn't about religion. And you will see where I know some of these actors, the great actors. Nick Searcy is in it as an actor. He's a great actor. He is also director. And that comes up in the film. Well, this is just about religion. This is because you're a Catholic. And you hear that a lot. Oh, you Christians. No, this is a great film. Please see it, the Gosnell film. And we're going to hear right now from John Sullivan, producer of Gosnell. John Sullivan, what a pleasure. You are an awesome man. You've produced not only this film, but many other films. We'll tell the audience about that later, but tell us now about Gosnell.
Well, Gosnell is the true story of Kermit Gosnell and really the investigation and the trial into him and what happened around that. And, you know, this started off as a drug case. It wasn't even about an abortion doctor in Philadelphia. But when the police went in there and the FBI went in, and what they discovered suddenly became a murder case because they found over 40 potential victims. And the problem with this whole thing was you had to recognize who the victims were, and those victims were children.
Yes.
And so this then became a very polarized issue. So the media kind of gave it a blackout. Even some of the law enforcement guys didn't want to go after the murder case. So it was really a dogged detective named James Woods and the DA's office that went after him for the murder and manslaughter. And so, you know, that's the story we tell. It's kind of like a Law and Order episode in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not a graphic or gory movie in that way at all. You know, audiences have been raving about it after they see it, which is always good to have that happen. But I think it's an important movie.
I do too. And the production values, I saw the trailer. I know a lot of the other folks involved. But the fact that you're involved says a lot, John. And this is releasing October 12th.
Yes, October 12th.
That's right. So there's been some sneak previews all over the nation.
Yes.
Some of those brought some conflict. I know that Zoe was involved in something in Dallas. But we're very excited because we want people to know the purpose of the law is to protect the innocent. That's why policemen have guns and badges. And that's what the right to life is really all about. Will the vulnerable, the most vulnerable, be protected? Before Roe, they were.
Yeah.
And so this is a significant film. I think it's a blockbuster in terms of opening people's eyes. And even though it's happening now during election season, we want you as viewers, when you see this and you realize what's at stake, go out and register to vote then. That's how we change things. We know that Justice Kavanaugh is going to be, God willing, he's going to be confirmed. But he's not going to do anything other than allow you to do something. The only thing that Justice Kavanaugh can do is free you up in your state to go and elect people that will protect the vulnerable. If you're not registered to vote, if you're not ready to elect those kind of lawmakers, then nothing will happen in your state. And here in California and some of the other Western states, that's the big challenge, to wake people up to be involved in the civic process so that when the court does overturn Roe, then you can do your part as a citizen. So I'm excited about this film. And John, it's an excellent film, really is. And we're excited. So that's October 12th. And make sure you go to see Gosnell.
Go opening weekend. We really need you to go out opening weekend so it'll stay in theaters for a long time.
That's right. And that's October 12th. Fill those theaters. If you're listening in the future by podcast, and if you're thinking about the importance of elections, as this program is focusing on, you can go back and see Gosnell. You can order it online. It's an excellent film, great production values, and Dean Cain and Alfonso, Rachel, some good friends are in that film, great pro-life individuals. They want to really get the story out, and it's a story that you really need to see. Very, very well done. But I want to remind you now that what's happening is elections. So in California, make sure that you understand not just that John Cox, he's running for governor this year. He's pro-life, but he's merely the top of the ticket. And if you only vote for John Cox, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get out your ballot statement, and there's going to be 18 other decisions to make all the way down the ballot. And if you have not been informed, then those people whom either you could wisely oppose because of their pro-death values, or you could wisely help, they won't have your help because you're not informed. So in California, I'm going to ask that you go to the California Pro-Life Council website, californiaprolife.org. And not only do we have the statewide candidates and their positions, we also have the congressional candidates. Very, very important. There are key races here in California. We outlined them. But if you're in Orange County, it's very intense this year. Make sure you get out and support the pro-life candidates. But more to the point, you're going to have school board and city council members. We're going to have that list at californiaprolife.org. Make sure you consult and find out who is it locally that's running for your school board. Often, they're moms or dads that found out that Planned Parenthood was trying to control their schools, so they step up and on their own, they want to change that. But if you don't know about it, if you aren't there to help them, they won't have the votes. But this is what really happens in elections. It's called the trickle-up theory. So if you go and the only person you know to vote for is, well, I know John Cox is pro-life. Well, that's just one vote in what's going to be probably 7 million. If, however, you go and you know that your friend from the Baptist church or the Catholic church has decided to run for city council or school board, and you say, hey, let's get our church supporting them. By the way, you should have a voter registration drive at your church. Some churches can easily register 500 new voters, 1,000. I just spoke to a friend today. He goes to a church of 6,000. They've never done a voter registration drive. It's a younger church. They haven't thought about civics. 6,000 new votes is not just several city council races. Many city council races are won or lost by just a few 100 votes, 200 maybe, but some are much closer. School boards closer still. But here's the reality. Then it's the trickle-up theory. You vote for that school board member, you get new votes out for that school board member. That's going to help the person running for city council. Those city council votes in every town, village, and hamlet in California, they're going to trickle up. They're going to help the Congress. They're going to help the congressional candidate that's running. All of those votes across the state are going to help John Cox. That's how we win. That's how the states that have won win, by organizing locally. So go to californiaprolife.org. If you don't have a chapter in your area, do contact California Pro-Life and say, I want to set up a chapter for my county. If you just want to act as an individual, you can do that too. That's fine. But we're a nationwide team, and we want to encourage you, if you're not in California, go to nrlc.org, find out who your state affiliate is. Every state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee understands that the right to life is actually ultimately about the civic process and you being involved in civics. So they'll be able to tell you who the good candidates are this election cycle. Call them up. On their website, they'll often list the good candidates. In fact, consider volunteering. This is the time to make a difference. Elections matter. We've heard that from both sides of the aisle, and it's true. That's because elections are the true battle of ideas. Elections determine policy. And we're concerned about policy. The sacrifice of human babies through abortion has been going on for a long time. It can only end when we end this practice legally. We need the laws to do that. So I encourage you to understand civics, to get involved in the process right where you are. Go to nrlc.org. Go to your various state affiliates. Find out if you have a local chapter. If not, see about starting a new chapter. A chapter is a non-sectarian group and non-partisan. And what that means, it's very important. It's how we started today's program. This isn't about my religion. If you work with people of other faiths, and that's, I think, been the bane of many folks, they only want to work with people just like them. But this is a self-evident truth. This is not a religious truth. This is about the self-evident truth of how a society needs to function. That's why the laws did protect babies before 73. That's why the protections that are needed for grandmas and elderly and medically dependent people, they need to be put in place, not because my religion says so. Because if we don't do that, if we start practicing euthanasia, even voluntary euthanasia, we become not a lot different from what's happened in other very scary societies. A 20th century society in Germany had to stand trial at the Nuremberg trials, and they were tried for killing their own vulnerable innocent. The Nuremberg trials were not about invading France or starting wars. They were put on trial for killing fellow Germans who were innocent. And I would hate for that to have to be something that takes place in the United States. But we do have to confront this great evil in our midst. It's an idea, and it goes against the very core of the American system and values, the idea that every human being is significant and endowed by their Creator with these inalienable rights. Thanks for listening to Life Matters. Again, you can listen to us on podcast, subscribe to the podcast, or if you'd like to get it on a local radio station, we're on Christian and we're on conservative talk stations. We also have many opportunities for you to ask questions, and go ahead, as one person told us last week, they actually binge listen to Life Matters. They look for the topic that they're most interested in, and that's why we're here. Remember, you can make a difference right where you are.
If you have questions or comments for Life Matters, call 800-924-2490. Give us your name and the town you're calling from, and a quick question or comment. Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.